Hi, it's me, INFP, and this is an update on my life because I think that my latest update was not very positive. And this update is positive. I just went and finally saw my psychologist after several months of not seeing him. I think it must have been at the beginning of the summer. So before I went on a trip to Scotland, and then a ton of stuff happened after that. So basically, I had some fights with my family, and then my uncle died, and then I got an autism diagnosis, and then I started my placement in geriatrics, and then I found out that my supervisor is ending her job at my workplace and moving to another workplace, and I got into a conflict with my boss where I was disclosing my autism diagnosis, and where we were discussing my residency program and my if I'm going to continue, what new supervisor I'm going to get, and then last week my oven stopped working and Trump got elected, and also it's the autumn and I'm not sleeping well because of the winter time. So a lot of things have happened in the past 3 months, and we decided that me and my psychologist were not going to be meeting up until at least next January, because I want to be able to manage my geriatrics placement as well as I can. Also, since we met, I have had an episode where I was really feeling dizzy and was scared I was going into burnout again. And I had a plan on going to London next week, actually, to see a friend, but I've had to cancel that trip. I only bought the tickets to London, but not on the way back. And all that money is going down the drain, but it isn't that much money because I bought some pretty cheap tickets, but they were non-refundable. But I felt like I made a right decision because I'm just not in the capacity to travel right now. I feel like I did a good job going to Edinburgh this summer on my own, and seeing my family. But I feel like I need to rest and actually do the trips that I really want to do. So next summer, I'm going to that friend's wedding, and also to another friend's wedding, the ESFP colleague that I talk about. And my friend is probably an ISFP. No, I think that she's an INFP actually, who lives in London and who works as a zoologist. I think that she's an INFP actually. I don't see the ISFP intensity there, but I don't know. I know that she's an Enneagram 9 at least, so that makes the intensity kind of really, it seems non-existent at least. She's a friend from high school. But yeah, so I'm not going to be seeing her now because I am thinking of just saving my energy until next year. Because I felt like I was on the edge of going into burnout, and last weekend I just slept, I played some Genshin Impact, I tried reading a book, did not get very far, took a nice bath and just, tried to do all those self-care things, including doing the dishes, which is part of self-care, And now I've gone to a psychologist, which is also a part of the self-care. I have to do all these things to just be okay, There was a period there I was kind of worried about my mental state. Back when I got that dizziness, I recognized that dizziness from when I got burnt out last time, around 1.5 years ago, or almost 2 years ago. And I didn't want that to happen again, so I got really scared. But I think that I'm going towards a more positive. I think that there's a difference between being depressed and being burnt out. It's hard to tell the difference sometimes, because often a burnout will lead to depression and the other way around. I'm not feeling hopeless. I'm not feeling like I'm a piece of shit. I'm not feeling like nothing, like the world is meaningless, or not in that way. I just feel like my nerve endings are frazzled. Like I feel kind of my head is buzzed out and my brain is not working in the same capacity as it should. And it's scary, but in another way, I feel more like I'm a little bit outside of, like I can't do the things that I should do because I am so exhausted by everything that I do. And so I would say that is more of a burnout kind of thing. And autistic burnout is not always because of work. But in my case, I feel much happier when I don't have to work. And sure, I have to work, but I am glad that I gave myself this holiday, which are my regular holidays. I just planned it out to be in November, which I think was a smart decision on my part, because I knew that this would happen. Kind of. I know that my energy is low in November, and I planned it out this way, so I am very happy about that. I was very much a rambling mess talking to my psychologist today, because he was like, well, what is the main problem? And I was like, everything. There's so many problems, there's everything that happened. And it seems like I get a crisis and then another crisis and then another crisis. And maybe all these things are small things, or they're things that other people seem to manage, but I cannot. And it does get very muddled in my brain, because it's like, oh, what should I focus on thinking about right now, And I want to live in the present. The problem is that my job requires me to always be thinking about the future. Because I'm kind of, as a resident, I need to think about, I'm kind of both a student and I work, kind of. I feel like I'm, like when I'm not, like I have to focus on my work, but then I also have to focus on like the goals that I need to accomplish at my work in the future. And I know that there are several jobs that require you to always be moving, and progressing. But I feel like my job is even more so like that, because I am kind of a student still. And I know that I would have much more um, uh, much more to say about like my work. Like I would have more control over how I do my work and such if I was a specialist. Basically, if I, once I'm done with my residency, then I can do what I want, kind of. You know, like I can work part-time, I can work from home maybe, or I could I could figure out a way to adapt my schedule. But as a resident, I don't have that possibility, and so it's hard. It really is. So I am at a kind of difficult situation, and so that's why I got in a panic when I was talking to my boss, because I didn't want to seem like somebody who did not want to do the work. You know, I didn't want to seem like I was being lazy or that I was, you know, trying to avoid certain tasks. At the same time, I wanted my boss to understand that I will not be able to manage those same tasks or expectations in the same way in the future. And I got in a panic state because of that. And in this case, it was a Teams meeting, which wasn't ideal, but that's because my boss was working from home that day. So it didn't go well. Or it went okay, but not well. And I was in such a panic state that I ended up crying later on in the day in front of some other colleagues. And so I discussed with those other colleagues. So I talked to the nurse's boss, and the nurse's boss talked to my boss. And my boss was all apologetic about it. My boss is an ENTJ, so I'm an INFP, so we will have conflicts in terms of like understanding each other. Also, I'm autistic and he's not. So there is, you know, we're not seeing the world in the same way. But he does value me as like a coworker, so I have certain advantages, I guess. And I think that I did my best to use that to my advantage, you know? But it is difficult for me because I am kind of scared of authority, I guess, from my upbringing, where, you know, my teachers and all that, it was quite a strict environment. So I think I can't really shake that off. But I think that I actually was pretty ambitious and even kind of forceful in certain aspects. And I think that I didn't back down, but it was difficult and it did stress me out a ton. So in the end, I think that we kind of got into a misunderstanding. And I wrote an email to my boss, and my boss wrote back the email, and then I wrote back to say that I was thankful that he listened and replied to my email. And in my email, I talked about how, well, this whole thing about how autism diagnosis is a big thing for me, that I can't just disclose it to everybody, that I don't trust people very easily, so, and I'd rather not disclose to the geriatrics placement that I'm at, because I'm only there for 2 more months, and I don't find it to be worth the hassle. Of course, if I end up crashing, I will have to tell them, but it's not like I went to warn them about something that might not happen. Also, there's this kind of external, there's this like tests that I need to do in the middle of my residency, which I am very stressed out about. And he seemed to think that I was trying to avoid it, but that wasn't really the case. The case is that I wanted help with how to plan it, because it's not just one day where somebody follows me along. It's also a bunch of preparation beforehand, and I don't think that I can do all of the planning. Like, the planning in itself is the big stress. I also hate the, being examined on my, while meeting patients. Of course, I hate that, but I can do that. Even if I dislike it and am scared of it, I can do that. I'm willing to, get out of my comfort zone in order to learn. But what I find is kind of ridiculous is that I have to plan the whole thing. So I need to plan out several videos of me, and I have to write a report, and I need to plan out which day, and all of that takes so much more energy than it should for me, because all of this thinking about the future is difficult. So I wrote about that. I also wrote about the supervisor that I wish to have, and he has granted me so that I have the autistic doctor, senior doctor, as my new supervisor. So my old supervisor and my new supervisor are going to be meeting up next week and have a short meeting just so that they can talk about the thing. Like, maybe my old supervisor has some tips for my new supervisor and about what we need to focus on or that kind of thing. So I'm glad for that. And I'm glad that I got to choose, because there's some certain people I really do not click with. So, I mean, things are going very well. It's just that I get so tired about each step. I get so stressed out about each step, and I try not to, I try. But these things are very important in my life. They might seem small to somebody outside of my life, but it's big for me. And yeah, I think that I'm pretty daring in my email. I got pretty, I not like I got like overly emotional or that I accused my boss of anything. I wasn't like that, but I did make requests that I think me from several years ago would have never made, So I do see that. What I wrote was that I could tell that my boss had good intentions, but I could see what he was trying to do, which was that he wanted to fix things, provide his fix to the problem quickly. When I told him autism is something that I will have, it is something that will take a long time for me to come to terms with and try to figure out a life forward. It's also not easily fixed by boosting my self-confidence. Sure, my self-confidence is not good, okay, but boosting my self-confidence is not going to fix the problem in this case. In this case, it was listening to my ideas, because I actually did have some ideas of how to fix the problem. And by him not listening, I panicked and could not provide with those solutions. So, because then when he came up with his solutions instead of listening to mine, then I felt like he was putting a bunch of pressure on me to fulfill these expectations. I explained this in a very minimal way, because I know that my boss is an ENTJ, and so him and emotions not really compatible, I guess. But I tried to be very, I tried to make my email very TE, which makes it kind of forceful, but also I tried to just, I think that in this case, MBTI really helps me in that I see that, okay, other people are not going to understand my feelings, okay? That's how it is. I mean, my ENTJ boss has his FI as his last function, and I have TE as my last function. But when I get into a conflict, I need to see it from his point of view. And in the end, my boss ended up apologizing for trying to fix the problem too quickly. And he said that he is willing to listen to my solutions on things because he does trust me, that I ask for help when is needed, and that I do have good solutions to come up with. And I felt like that was not just boosting my self-confidence, that was coming to a solution. So in a way, I am a very TE bound person. And in a way, he is a very FI bound person, we do have those functions in common, the TEFI. And I think that by connecting on that point, rather than on connecting on trying to connect on our NI, in the concept of like the future and all that, rather connecting on the functions that we do have in common, FI and TE, I think that we managed to, I told him it wasn't his fault that we got into miscommunications all the time, but that I am trying, and that I want to see him trying as well, and I know that he is trying. And so I could kind of soften the blow of my TE with my FI, which is what I do best, FI. But he could also do that. I understand he wants to come to a quick solution, and I want that too. And we actually both want the same thing. We want what's best for me and to provide a solution in the TE world, but we need to navigate this world of FI as well. And I think that we ended up coming to a pretty good stalemate, I guess. Not stalemate, but a peace treaty, And it's not like we were in a conflict in that sense, but we could find a way to both be like, okay, this is what we need to focus on, and we'll think about these things later. And we are both satisfied and content. That's the way it seems to me, at least. So it's not easy to advocate for yourself. I find like it's a fight the whole way. But sometimes I do have good ideas, and sometimes you can't go the conventional route of having a meeting if you're an unconventional person like me, I guess. I had to do it via email, even though that seems like not the right way to do things. In this case, this was the best way for me to get my thoughts out. So yeah, I think that rounds it up nicely. So I talked about the different things that have happened with my psychologist and with my boss. And also I've kind of landed in the presidential election. And I've talked to my mom about it. We talked for about 3 hours about it on Skype. I have also finally I managed to fix the oven, and um, what had happened was actually that I had unknowingly turned the child safety lock on, and then if you twist the knob that way without pushing it in, then you break the knob. Basically the knob gets loose. And I understand it's a security system, but like I don't have any kids, so it's not like I need the child safety lock. I didn't get like an instruction manual about my oven, but anyway. And my landlady kind of laughed at me for that, so I don't like my landlord, which, you know, most people don't, you know, but that did stress me out a lot for something that was so silly, you know. But that is actually fixed now, so I'm glad about that. I also, I'm going to take it easy now, and I'm going to be making some other videos. It has been difficult for me to make videos because I basically come home and then I play Genshin Impact for 3 hours, you know. At least I have gotten over my fears in one sense, in that I had been procrastinating going to the region of Inazuma in Genshin Impact for 2 years now. I was so scared of it, and I got blocked kind of in one of the stages, and I finally did that. Which, you know, I wish I could be more bold in real life, but if I'm already scared in the virtual world, you know, I'm glad that that was something that I finally did. Anyway, so have a great day, everybody. Bye.